Welcome to today's lesson on speciation, where we will focus on the processes by which new species arise and how scientific contributions by Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace help shape our modern understanding of this theory. In our lesson today, we will focus on two main objectives. Firstly, describing the process of speciation, including the roles of reproductive isolation and natural selection. Secondly, describing the work of Darwin and Wallace in the development of our modern understanding of speciation. So far, you have learned about genetic variation, evolution, and the principles of natural selection. This knowledge is essential as it sets the stage for us to understand the process of speciation. By understanding the contributions of Darwin and Wallace, you will see how their theories advanced our biological understanding, providing a framework for studying the diversity of life and the processes that drive evolutionary change. This insight is fundamental in numerous biological fields, including genetics, ecology, and conservation biology. Let's get started. Let's look in more detail at the process of speciation. Speciation occurs when populations of the same species evolve to such an extent that they can no longer interbreed successfully to produce fertile offspring. Groups of animals that cannot interbreed to produce fertile offspring are known as species. This process is fundamental to the diversity of life on Earth. Now, we will look at the process of speciation step by step. Speciation often begins with isolation, where populations of a species are separated. This can occur through physical barriers such as floods, earthquakes, or even human activities. This geographic isolation creates different separated environments, leading to different selection pressures. Let's illustrate this with an example. Imagine a population of flightless birds living on an island. A natural disaster, like an earthquake, separates the island into two separate smaller islands, creating two isolated populations of birds. Once isolated, each population faces unique environmental conditions. These different conditions exert different selection pressures on the populations. Natural selection comes into play here by favouring traits that are beneficial for survival in each unique environment. Over many generations, these differences become more pronounced, and the genetic makeup of the two populations continues to diverge. Going back to our bird example, the separated area might have different environmental pressures, such as access to different types of seeds for food. As the genetic, behavioural, and physical differences between the two populations accumulate, they may eventually become so distinct that individuals from one population can no longer interbreed with individuals from the other to produce fertile offspring. At this point, speciation has occurred, and two new species have formed. For example, the birds on the two islands might develop different physical characteristics that prevent them from mating with each other. Alfred Russel Wallace and Charles Darwin are two key figures in the development of the theory of evolution by natural selection, which underpins the concept of speciation. Let's watch two videos explaining their contributions.
I'm Charles Darwin, and my research culminated in the 1859 publication of On the Origin of Species, where I detailed natural selection as the key mechanism of evolution. My observations of finches and other species in the Galapagos Islands were pivotal in understanding how species adapt and change over time, leading me to propose that species evolve gradually through natural selection.
My name is Alfred Russel Wallace, and I independently conceived the idea of natural selection, just as Darwin did. My extensive fieldwork, particularly in the Malay archipelago, allowed me to observe species in their natural habitats, revealing fascinating variations. These observations provided significant evidence for natural selection as the driving force behind evolution. I take great pride in my work on warning coloration in species, especially butterflies, where I demonstrated how these striking patterns evolved through natural selection to deter predators, contributing a vital piece to the theory of evolution.
The ideas of Wallace and Darwin have had a profound impact on our understanding of speciation today. Our current understanding of speciation has evolved with accumulating evidence. Speciation is recognized as a process involving isolation and natural selection, resulting in the formation of distinct species when populations become genetically, behaviorally, and physically different enough that interbreeding is no longer possible. This process is fundamental to the diversity of life on Earth. Let's work through a practice question to consolidate our understanding of speciation. Explain how natural selection can lead to the formation of a new species. Pause here to have a go. Now let's go through it. Firstly, imagine a population of animals that gets geographically separated into two groups. Each group starts to experience different environmental conditions, leading to different advantageous traits being selected through natural selection. Over many generations, these different traits accumulate, causing significant genetic divergence between the two groups. Eventually, the groups become so different that they can no longer interbreed, even if they come back together. As a result, these groups have become distinct species due to the process of natural selection. In today's lesson, we explored the process of speciation and Charles Darwin's and Alfred Russel Wallace's contributions to the theory of evolution by natural selection. Darwin's observations during his HMS Beagle voyage led him to propose that species evolve over time through natural selection, where advantageous traits increase survival and reproduction. Independently, Wallace reached similar conclusions while studying in the Malay archipelago. Their joint presentation of these ideas laid the foundation for modern evolutionary biology. The theory of evolution by natural selection has since become central to biology, influencing genetics, ecology, and conservation by explaining species origins and adaptations. It remains crucial in studying phenomena like antibiotic resistance and speciation, shaping our understanding of the natural world.